Welcome to the Outlier Mindset Podcast, your guide for living a life by design. Here, we explore the journey of becoming an outlier, finding your purpose, mastering your mindset, optimizing your health, achieving financial freedom, and building a life centered around your passions. So tune in, transform, and thrive. Welcome to the Outlier Mindset. Let the journey begin. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Outlier Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Rodman Schley, and today I am pleased to welcome Fred Joyal. Fred's an accomplished author, speaker, and entrepreneur, best known for co-founding 1-800-DENTIST, the most successful dentist referral service in the country. Currently the CEO of True Blue Social Smiles, he is also the author of the Wall Street Journal bestseller, Super Bold, From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days. Fred, welcome to the show.
Rodman, it's exciting to be here and have this conversation. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. You know, you and I have got a chance to sit in rooms together. You've always been an impressive man to me, the things that you've done as an entrepreneur, who you are as a person. So it's really awesome to get you here on the show. Talk to my listeners a little bit about entrepreneurship today. I've got a lot of folks who are always looking for ways to be better, how they're building their businesses, how they're growing their companies, what they need to do to take their business and their lives to this next level. So you're the perfect guide. I thought maybe we'd start off today about a little bit about on your background. You come from a very interesting background and, you know, not one that I've talked to a lot of people about. So maybe you can tell people a little bit about who you are and where you came from.
So my real life in business started the day I walked into an ad agency and I said, oh, these are my people. I could do this because I could never figure out what I wanted to do for, deep into my 20s. I think I celebrated my 30th birthday in my first year in the ad business. But I didn't like the career arc because I would see these guys get laid off at 50 years old and they were making $300,000 a year. And this is in the 80s. And they couldn't get a job. And so I thought, well, I don't want that to happen to me. So I ended up starting a business based on the phone number 1-800-DENTIST because a friend of mine had the phone number. It was that random. We had to invent every aspect of the business. My partner and I, we borrowed $30,000 from our parents and set up a 5-seat call center. I made radio spots. We found 18 dentists in Los Angeles to go along with it. And we got 50 phone calls on the first day. And it was that holy shit moment. Like the market is actually saying yes. Now, looking back, I know that's what happened, but we just went, oh, wow, what we're telling the doctors might actually be true, that we can get them patients. And so we just kept adding doctors and adding money for everything back into advertising so that we could just keep growing the business. And it eventually, over the next 10 years, became the largest dentist referral service in the country, and then went on for about 27 years.
Oh my gosh.
My personal coach at one point asked me, he said, do you ever add up how much money you generated in the course of running the business? And I said, no. He says, well, do it. and so I added up and it was $1.1 billion.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, do you know how few people have generated $1 billion of revenue? And I said, yeah, but I spent like $1.2 billion. So it's like, I'm less excited on my side. But, it was an incredible run in the business. And we, like I said, we had to invent every aspect of the business. There was no template whatsoever. So, and we didn't have the business experience. We had to figure out how to form a corporation. We had to buy a phone system, write scripts for it, do the sales pitch. All we knew how to do was sell and make radio spots. I could make the advertising, my partner could sell. But it was marketing and selling, like the two most essential components. So we just filled in with everything else. And it was a great culture. That was really part of it. And, just to wrap up the business, my last month in the business, I celebrated 3 25-year employees. in the
Oh,
same month.
wow.
And that was one of my proudest moments, because these people, they had given me their entire adult life.
Yeah.
And we never forgot that that's where my wealth and success came from, was all of those people and the way we treated them. And many people said, oh, you could have made more money if you put the call center in the Philippines, or you didn't give healthcare benefits and stuff like that. And I said, yeah, but I wouldn't have been happy, and I might have gone out of business.
Yeah.
But I don't need to make all the money. You know, money was always tertiary for me and my partner. And I think that's one of the reasons why we thrived, is money didn't become more important than people.
You know, Fred, I tell that to people all the time. You know, I always put people before profit, you know, put purpose before profit. Profit's going to come.
Yeah.
We're just going to be just fine. We're going to make all the money that we want to make. But when you reverse those and you start putting profit before people, profit before purpose, profit before passion, that's when people live these lives that are just not fulfilling. And you know what? There's so much to go around. How much more fulfilling was it for you to have those people looking at you in the eye at the end of that 25-year run and with gratitude? People don't stay places 25 years anymore. People just don't do that.
No, they're thinking about moving every 6 months, you know, if they don't get a promotion or a raise. And so that was really what my partner and I, we just wanted a place where we wanted to go every day. And that was this before there were core values. We had 3: a great place to go to work every day, a win for everybody involved. The customer had to win, the caller had to win, the dentist had to win, the employees had to win, and we had to win. And profit was third. We had to make money, but it was never, profit didn't become our purpose ever.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, my partner and I, neither of us know who took more money, because we didn't care. We took what we needed that year. He was buying a house, my wife wanted a car, you know, whatever it was. We didn't tally it at the end of the year, because it was enough.
Yeah. What about, so Fred, then how did you exit that? I mean, is it still out there? Is somebody else running it now? Is it gone? What's happened to it?
It's a pale shadow of what it once was, because we got disintermediated by Google. I mean, we lived off of 2 things: the ability to buy television advertising on a national basis and create it cheaply. And we bought it all ourselves. We bought in-house, and a memorable phone number. Well, phone numbers don't matter, and neither television advertising. You have to be selling burgers or you know, Botox. You know, it's like you got to be selling drugs or cars or fast food or beer. That's the, you know, and live events are the only way you get people to actually watch commercials now. So we watched it. We saw the pivot point that we needed. We just didn't execute it. We brought in private equity, and sometimes it goes the worst it can possibly go. And that's what happened. You know, they brought in a new CEO, made me stay. So I got to watch the train wreck. And he destroyed the culture and almost destroyed the business. And then we had to find another buyer, but we were in a downward spiral, and I couldn't pull it out.
Well, I think that's an example of flexibility and why it's so important to always have that flexibility and be able to adapt with change, because, you know, nothing's the same forever. I mean, it's kind of like the taxi cab business, and all of a sudden Uber comes in, or what's happening with AI. I have so many people right now looking at AI going, I don't want to get involved with it. It's too complicated. I just want it. It'll do its thing. It's not going to impact me. But they're wrong, because there's so many things that are happening with AI that if you're not keeping up with it, that if you're not evolving with it, you're going to be in trouble. I tell people, you're either going to adapt it and evolve with it, or you're going to be retired. Take a pick. Which one do you want?
Well, and that perfect example is yesterday, you know, relative to when you're running this, Salesforce took a 20% hit, and it in their stock value, and it was because in a single day, and it was because you can ask ChatGPT to write you a CRM if you need it. And maybe you could get it for a tenth the cost with, combined with your coders, or free. And that's the way stuff's going to go. I mean, even if you got a SaaS business, which barfs profit right now, in the second year, you're usually at 80% profit on your product. That could all go away. That could go away in 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
Adapt or die, baby.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. You got to keep your mind open. You got to keep growing. You got to keep evolving. You got to keep learning. And if you don't, that's again kind of when you're kind of going to lose track, or you're going to fall behind, or you're going to be done. And because things are going to change. It doesn't matter how profitable you are something today, that could be totally different in 5 years. It could be gone in 10. You just don't know. So you got to make sure that you're always keeping up with things and moving forward. But so let's talk a little bit about your book. Number one, I've had a chance to meet you. I've had a chance to be in rooms with you. I know who you are, what you're about. And right before we even came onto the show, I told my producer over here, I said, I can't wait to have Fred on, because Fred's a funny guy. Fred's always cracking me up. He's always making me laugh, always saying things that make me chuckle. But your book is a lot about charisma and about, kind of going into, and I think it's very relevant for entrepreneurs too, because most successful entrepreneurs, people who are out there in the public, out there doing things, if you're not bringing life with it, if you're not bringing charisma with it, if you're not bringing excitement with it, and you're flat, you're just not going to do as well. So I think it's a real relevant and important topic. But tell us a little bit about your book.
So the title of the book is Super Bold, with a D, Super Bold, not the football thing. So I always make sure when I talk to podcasts, not super bald, I haven't lost every inch of hair. But it is, and the subtitle is From Underconfident to Charismatic in 90 Days. And I use the word charisma very specifically, because charisma is really just being bold enough to bring your full self out. It doesn't mean necessarily being a show off or, an attention getter or whatever like that. It's about, I'm never going to be the one stopping me. I'm never going to dial myself down. I'm going to give people the full me in every situation. And people are magnetically drawn to that. And it's the thing that I learned is that this is something that you can develop, and you can develop much more quickly than you thought. Because I started out as an incredibly shy person in my life. I mean, I couldn't ask a girl out. I couldn't make a phone call, which is ironic since my main wealth was created by a phone number. But I was painfully shy, and it just frustrated me. And it took me years and years and years to figure it out. But I also figured out how to do it much faster, looking at how I did it slowly. The reason you do it is because life is short. So what do you do in stacking regrets? Because that's what most people do. They use the word should all the time. I should have done this. I should have tried that. I should have said this. I shouldn't have done this. And that's an indicator that you're holding yourself back. You're stopping you.
What kind of things, Fred, like what is it inside of people that stops them from doing these things? What keeps them in a position where they are holding back?
Most of the time it's been socialized out of them, because they had parents who said, be quiet, speak when you're spoken to, don't draw attention to yourself. Then you get to high school and everybody's opinion matters about everything. And there's like 3 cool people and 300 nerds and weirdos, and that there's the rest of us.
Yeah.
And as a sidebar, those 3 people peaked in high school and probably never went anywhere. They work in gas stations and 7-Elevens and stuff like that. All of this stuff attacks your confidence. And if you let other people's opinions matter to you, which they do at that age, then you inhibit yourself. You restrain and confine yourself. So the earlier you learn to stop worrying about what other people think, this is what bold people realize is people are not thinking about you anywhere near as much as you think they are.
Mm.
They're thinking about themselves and worrying about what other people think about them.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible trap. And so what happens is, oh, I don't want to dance. I'm going to look funny. I'm not going to ask this girl out. She might not find me interesting. I don't want to meet that guy. He's not going to find me attractive or interesting enough. We got stories upon stories about how bad it's going to go. And this is the problem with human beings right here is we are great at calculating what the worst case scenario is and could be, but terrible at calculating the odds of it actually happening.
Well, Fred, actually, the worst case scenario is seeing me dance. I know that you have not seen me dance, but it's not a pretty sight. But I do it anyway. I don't really care.
Well, it's other people are suffering, not you. I mean, it's a choice to say. I love telling people this. Embarrassment is a choice. Bold people almost never get embarrassed because doesn't matter what happened, they don't turn it into embarrassment. They don't say, oh, people are laughing at me. That's terrible. They go, oh, people are laughing at me. This is pretty good. And they do the same thing. And this is so important in business, especially if you're in sales, is taking on rejection as negative is a choice. It doesn't have to mean anything bad about you. You have no idea what's going on in the head of that person who's rejecting you. It may be information that you need, that, maybe you shouldn't wear that jacket or whatever, but most of the time, it's all this stuff you're playing in your head. And bold people rejection means next.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm done. I'm moving on.
It's the same thing with the social media era. We're talking about a lot of times people will go in and they're worried about what people say to them back. You've got all these trolls or the haters or whatever you want to call them, and they'll hold back from what they put into the world when they could really be helping some people. I mean, there's some people, they've got so much to give and so much information, but they're afraid to help that one person or those two people because you got this person over here who's going to be that hater. That person is going to be very critical, or that person is going to turn up their nose, or whatever it might be. So they're not bold because they're afraid of what that impact might be when they receive feedback, instead of just going, I don't care what that person thinks. Or maybe I don't know what's going on in their head either. Maybe they're just having a miserable day. Maybe they have a miserable life. Maybe they're just out here just because they want to be hating.
Yeah, and that's what makes them feel good about themselves, because they feel bad about themselves. And so they don't know how to lift themselves up, so they have to cut somebody else down. What a sad existence. And bold people just let it bounce off. Bold people have a half a dozen people generally whose opinions matter to them. And the rest, they go like, their opinion's none of my business. I got stuff to do. I got dreams to chase, and I'm going to stumble upwards. I'm going to take risks, personal, social, financial, because I will learn from it and I will recover. And, as an entrepreneur, we were in dire straits maybe 5 times, hanging by our fingernails, but we found a way out by showing up every day. And just talking, I was like, okay, what do we do today? And somebody would go, well, what we could do? We could have all our best clients prepay us for the year and give them a 10% discount for prepaying. And all of a sudden we get $2 million coming in because they jumped on it. Now it's kicking the can down the road, but that's all we needed to do was kick it down the road. So it's things like that where you just, and you survive enough of those and you say, we're just going to make survivable mistakes. And we just got to get up and try again. And you know what? If it all goes down, we started a business with nothing. We'll start another one.
Well, yeah, I think so too. I think because people start to calculate risk in their head. And like you said, they see the worst case scenario. And then sometimes they just don't even try. It's like, well, they talk themselves out of it. Maybe they're all excited at first, and then they start looking at everything that could go wrong. And by the time they get to a certain point, they're just going, I'm just not going to do it, because they've talked themselves out of it before they've even started, before they've taken step one.
Well, and the other thing is, the window of opportunity isn't something that just sits open. Sometimes it's open for a few seconds or a few minutes. So when people say carpe diem, I say a day's too long to seize. You need to seize the moments. You need to carpe momenti. You need to seize those moments, because sometimes you say, oh, wow, look, there's Richard Branson. I would really like to go talk to him, but he's going to think I'm an idiot because I'm not as successful as him. And he's going to think I'm trying to borrow money from him or get me to invest. And I would really just like to meet him. And they play enough of that. It's Branson walks away and they don't get to meet him. And they do that over and over again. They stack these regrets in their life, and it depresses you. People reach the end of their life, and they will talk about it. What people say on their deathbed and in the last days of their life is they only regret the stuff they didn't do, the stuff they didn't try, the stuff they didn't attempt, and they missed out. And they didn't divorce that person, or they didn't make up with their brother that they've been fighting with for 20 years until that last week of their life when they went, wow, we really wasted this brotherhood over this petty thing that neither of us can remember how it started. And the list goes on and on and on.
My wife asked me the other day, we were talking about kind of things that maybe we thought about that maybe we had some regrets on or what have you. I guess we're celebrating our 20-year anniversary. And so we were just kind of looking back and kind of thinking through the last 20 years. And this wasn't related to our marriage, but one of the things that I regretted is I went to an event where Dr. Wayne Dyer was speaking. And Dr. Wayne Dyer wrote a book called Your Erroneous Zones, which had tremendous impact on me as a kid. I read it when I was like 15 years old. And a lot of my life revolves around that book and those fundamentals and those philosophies. And when he got done speaking, there was a lot of people there that were wanting to talk to him. There's so many people, though, I didn't want to. I said, well, I'll catch him at the next one, or, because there's so many people, I don't want to bother him right now, whatever. And then, of course, Dr. Wayne Dyer passed on. And I never got the chance to go look him in the eyes and just say, thank you. Thank you for writing that book. Thank you for having such an impact on who I am. And after that, though, you're talking about approaching people. Now, I tell people, if somebody's had a positive impact on me or somebody's doing good things in the world that I really love their mission, I will reach out to them. I will tell them. I will call them. I will go up to them. I don't care, because I want them to know what kind of an impact that they are having on the world or on me personally. I don't want to have that same regret I had with Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Well, and that's what bold people do is they will mine their regrets. They will dig into them. They won't try to bury them. They'll go like, I am never doing that. I am never missing that opportunity again. They let it sting, and they allow themselves to just feel the pain so that it doesn't happen again. And what happens to them is then they do step up. And he may have said, buddy, I've talked to enough people at this point. But here's the transformation that occurs in life when you're bold, is that trying and failing feels way better than not trying.
Amen. Agreed. 100%.
So many people they don't want to try. Oh, I could get hurt, whatever. But then they're going to go, but I should have talked to him. I should have asked her this. I should have tried that. I should have quit that job. I should have asked for that promotion. I should have started that business. I should have joined my friend who asked me to be his partner, and he's off to the races and created this business with somebody else. And I said, I don't know. I'm afraid to quit my job. Regrets. Life is short, man. It's too short to let somebody else decide what you're capable of. It's too short to let somebody else tell you what your dreams should be, or to think you're going to get to your dreams tomorrow or next year. You'll never get to them. Dreams decay because you don't get to them, not because they're too hard.
Preach on that one. Fred, now you and I run in the same circle while we're in these same groups. But what I solve for, or what I try to solve for in life, is regret. Because for me, it's one of those things that's like, so many people get so tied up in so many things. they're just not living. I mean, they're getting up, they're hitting an alarm clock, they're getting up and they're doing these things over and over again that they don't want to be doing, or they're struggling, like you said, to be bold and to break out and to do different and to really follow who they want to be. And they get to that end of that journey and they're sitting on that deathbed, like you said, looking back going, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. I wish I could have done this. And for me, it's like, I want to make sure that when I'm sitting on that deathbed and my family's around me and I'm looking them in the eyes and I'm just smiling ear to ear saying, if I thought it, I tried it. If it was something that I really wanted and that was important to me, I gave it a shot. I wasn't successful all the time at it, but you know what? I know if I was or if I wasn't. I don't have any doubt because at least I tried.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's great to do something like learn to play poker, because you're going to lose way more hands than you win. But if you keep folding, you'll never win. And that's what people do in life, is they fold ahead of time. They fold at the first sign of trouble or risk or fear.
Or they don't even go to the table.
They don't even sit down. Oh, I want to sit at the table. That's too risky. I'm going to watch.
Yeah. No, I mean, we could go into a billion poker analogies that would be very relevant to taking some calculated risks.
Yeah.
It's not like sitting down at the slot machines, It's one of those things where you can control a lot of the outcomes. And you're not going to win every hand, right? There's going to be a lot of times people have come up to me and said, Rodman, how are you successful at everything you do? And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, I lose.
Let me show you the list. Right?
Yeah, I lose 75% of the time. But when I hit on the 25%, I hit really well and I play very well. Sometimes we can aimlessly drift through our life, not really sure how to break the patterns and live the life that you've always dreamed of. I get it. I have been there, so caught up in chasing opportunities until I found myself in a life that felt foreign to me. It took me years to unwind the messy web to get back to what I've been put on this planet to do. And let me tell you this, purpose doesn't have to feel out of arm's reach. And I've designed a plan for you to do a little bit each day over the next 30 days in a challenge that I call the Outlier 30. It's specifically designed to help you find or create more clarity around your purpose. So if you're feeling lost and you want to finally turn things around and live that life that you were destined to create, sign up right now. It's free. You have absolutely nothing to lose and the whole world to gain. Visit gorodman.com/outlier30 today. Tell me this, Fred. I'm thinking through. So people might be sitting there going, well, I'm not built to be bold, or it's just not who I am. Do you hear that a lot, where it's kind of like, people think that they're born into being maybe not bold or being quiet or being shy or being whatever it might be. Is that the case? And if so, or if not, either way, how do people break out of that and start to be bold?
Self-definitions are a trap. I'm shy. I'm not a good dancer. I'm not good with math. Every one of these things that you tell yourself, people don't find me interesting. You've found a way to trap yourself by this self-definition. You could just abandon it. You could just say, try something else. Try being, this is who I am. No, this is where you're hiding. This is the cage you've built for yourself, but it's not locked. You have the key in your pocket. And all you have to do is say, maybe I'll try this on for size. It doesn't have to be me. Bold people say, well, that was ridiculous. I probably shouldn't have done that. But you know what? Wasn't that? And because of it, what happens when you do those things, when you say, what if I behave differently? You realize that something different happens, and you start to feel proud of yourself. You say, wow, I actually tried that. Didn't work out, but I tried. Like I said, the transformation happens when you try and fail and go, well, at least I'm not kicking myself like I have been. What really happens is, and this is what bold people know, is 90% of the time, I'm making this statistic up. This is a Fred statistic. something interesting and unexpected will happen when you put yourself out there. And so a lot of times people don't have a specific goal in mind when they go into something. They say, I'm going in and I'm going to see what happens, and I'm not going to stop me. I'm going to let somebody else stop me. Somebody else try. I mean, I once walked into a meeting, all of these CEOs that I wanted to meet, they had all run these big businesses. And I did by technical definition, did not belong there. And I wasn't even dressed for it, but I went, hey, look, I'm going to go in. And I went in and I'm walking around, I'm talking to people. This woman comes up to me and says, do you want me to get you your badge? And I said, actually, I won't have a badge because I wasn't invited. And she said, oh, well, when everybody sits down to dinner, you're going to have to leave because we won't have any seats for you. She doesn't kick me out.
Mm.
So I chat people up. I meet people I really wanted to meet, spend time with them. I'm upping my street cred by the minute just by being there. And then she comes up to me and says, okay, it's dinner time, but several people had to leave, so you're welcome to stay.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah. This part of charisma is believing you belong everywhere.
Mm.
That what you bring is enough to be wherever you want to be. And it's just a mindset. It's got nothing to do with factuality, which is where people get all hung up.
I think we all think a lot alike. I mean, the thing about it is, it doesn't matter what level you're at or who you are. I mean, yeah, you've got some, I've met some incredible people who have achieved at the highest level, but when I'm in a room with them, they're no different than I am. Our conversations are no different. Who I thought they would have been because of where they're at their success level didn't come through in a personality where they were like thinking above me or, talking above me or acting above me. It's kind of like, I think you're always shocked. You always think these people's like, oh, they're not going to want to be bothered by me, or, oh, they're not going to want to have the time to put into me. But most of them are sitting there. They're just people like you and I. They have problems. They have money issues. They have people issues. They've got business issues. And, quite honestly, what you might bring to somebody would bring some tremendous value that maybe they're looking for, or maybe they need some opinion on, or maybe they want to collab on. I have so many people that I've looked at and I said, oh, I don't know, that guy's doing so well, but I've reached out to him anyway. And I find out I've got a lot of things that they're looking for and they need. And then they, it's just this collaborative thing. And it doesn't matter where you're at in that stratosphere.
Well, then I think about you and Wayne Dyer. And had you gone up to him and say, I read your book at 15 and it saved my life and it's changed the whole trajectory of my life, that may be something so impactful for him in that moment. He may say, wow, I really need to start aiming at a younger audience. If somebody 15 can be impacted by my book and I'm not paying attention to that, that's when I would want to affect somebody. I'm the same way about Boldness. I want somebody to know this in high school or college, not wait till you're 30 or 40 or 50 to figure it out.
Yeah. No kidding. And just to kind of get that feedback too. I mean, we should always be taking in feedback, no matter how successful or where we're at in our business trajectories. We should always be taking feedback because that's how you get better. That's how you grow. That's how you identify. That's how you make things really, really optimize when you're working on your business. It's the people who shut themselves in the room and they're not open to the feedback, whether it's critical feedback or positive feedback, either one. The second we start closing ourselves off to that anyway is when we're not going to be growing. We're not going to be serving the people that we want to serve at the highest level.
Well, I talk about this in the book too. One of the reasons you want to be bold is you want to be comfortable asking for feedback, because that's part of this fear of being unworthy is I don't want to hear that somebody has anything negative to say about me. Whereas bold people say, I'm the same way when I speak. I love it when people come up and say, that was a great lecture. That was amazing. I needed to hear that. I've been waiting all my life to get this message. And I'm so glad I was in the room. I want to hear what the 10 people in the room who thought I was an idiot have to say. I want to know, like, did I turn them off with an analogy that they perceived, however misogynistic, whatever, however they mansplaining, whatever the heck they had, it's like, tell me more about that. And because I want to know what made you stop listening, because I wanted you to get the message. And if I bumbled it, I want to fix it.
I know too, we all have these insecurities in life. I mean, we all do. If somebody says they have no insecurities, they're a liar. I mean, it's just that simple. But what do you need to do to get into the bold side of life? You can still be insecure, but you just got to push through those things to get that boldness that you're talking about. What are some things that you could do as a person who sits there and goes, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can go to the bold side. What should they be doing to start pushing through?
Well, here's the great misconception is people say, well, I would be bolder if I were more confident. What bold people know is that confidence is built by bold action, not the other way around. They try stuff all the time that they are not confident at all about the outcome. But they've learned, oh, there's going to be something in it for me. I'm going to take a little beating here, or I'm going to, I'm going to get stopped or sidelined or criticized, but I'm not going to be stopping myself. It's the same thing with courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in the face of fear. And so boldness is action in the face of underconfidence. And so, but what you have to do, and I talk about this in the book as a main point, is you have to control the dosage of your venture into your discomfort. You can't overwhelm yourself and then beat yourself up because it didn't go right. If you want to public speak and the first thing you do is set yourself up in front of 300 people, it's going to go badly and you're going to feel badly about it, and you may never want to speak again. So start with 5 people, start with 10. That's why stand-up comedy, you started at an open mic and you get 3 minutes. And sometimes they go by really slowly because nobody's laughing.
Yeah.
But you build your boldness muscle. And so it's that willingness to understand, first of all, that boldness builds just like a muscle. You get stronger by straining yourself, by being uncomfortable and tolerating it. And that's, that's when people say, well, I'm shy. It's like, no, you behave shy in certain situations. Why don't you stop defining yourself that way and behave unshy in a minute here and a minute there? And what happens is you start to build that muscle. So I say, like, if you feel like you're holding yourself back or you're shy, start simply. Just smile at 5 people a day. Just say hello to 2 people a day. Introduce yourself to somebody in the Starbucks line in front of you. It's harmless. Do it when there's no real danger. Just like when we practice at anything, we practice basketball, we practice, field goal shots, free throw shots, and we practice it when it doesn't matter. The game isn't on. We just keep shooting and shooting and shooting. It's like dial it in. And what do? You start by missing a lot until you start swishing.
Yeah.
It happens just by getting to it. Taking bold action builds confidence.
I've seen people make this transition too. I've seen it, like somebody who's been multiple people in my life who they've always kind of been the quiet ones, right? The ones where it's like they've always been a little shy, a little bit quiet. But man, I've seen them come out of their shell, and it's so night and day. It's night and day what they're doing in life now. It's night and day how they're communicating with people. It's night and day how they're acting around people. But you can tell it's dropping those expectations, because our whole lives, you've got people constantly putting expectations around you. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It seems like people are always trying to herd you up and put you in a box. And, it's one of those things where it's like, you just got to say no to that, because the transition, once you get out of those boxes, is so significant.
Yeah. And we worry about people judging us, and we judge people all the time. we go, oh, that guy should never dress like that, or she should lose some weight, or she's going to have a heart attack. Like, like this guy can't sing. This guy, this has a terrible business idea. Judge. From the littlest thing, from the least amount of information, I find I'm wrong about 95% of the time when I have that judgment. So I actually indulge myself. Like if I see somebody, like I'm in the Starbucks line again, and I look at somebody and I go, man, that hair looks ridiculous, or that tattoo should never be there, or you should have spent way more money on that tattoo. I will deliberately compliment the thing I'm judging. And what happens, two things happen. One, I find out that they're very happy about that tattoo. And two, I don't feel the same anymore. I don't have an opinion about them because I've gotten a chance to see who they are rather than who I imagine they are. So if everybody's doing this to us and they're wrong, why are you worrying about it? Let it go. Let's stop thinking about it, because it's a waste of energy. It's keeping you from chasing your dreams.
Yeah, we used to, my wife and I, well, we still do, we have a television show on PBS that airs nationally, and, we'll get tons of great feedback on it, great letters, great emails, and that, but, you get that 1 out of 10 of that person who just judges the heck out of you. But you'd get these letters, or we'd get these pieces, and they'd go on and on. They think it's going to a producer, and we see them. And I would read it, and at first, it's like, oh, that hurts, right? But you'd read through it, but they were always so wrong, right, about what they were saying in there. And it just made me go, these people, they just don't know you. They don't know who you are. They are judging the heck out of you every step of the way, but you can't worry yourself about that judgment, because if you start worrying about what somebody's thinking of you, it's really not even about you. It's more about them and maybe the insecurities that they have as a person that they're projecting out onto you. And so I learned really fast to go, okay, you know what? I'm not going to worry about what people are going to think about me. There's going to be some good. There's going to be some bad. As long as the people that really know who I am really take that time to understand me and what I'm about, those are the people that I will absorb that information from most of all, because they're going to know exactly who I am and what I'm doing and what I'm about.
Yeah, and that's what I said, is that bold people have a really short list of people whose opinions matter, and it's because they know them. You know who I really am. So if one of my best friends comes up to me and says, you're really off course in this relationship that you're in right now, and I don't know why you're in it, and I'm here to help you talk about it, but what are you doing? As opposed to saying, oh, he's an idiot, or like, you don't belong with her, and leaving it at that. It's like, and when somebody does that to me, now I have to listen, because they know me, and that matters. I get to say, what's the lesson here? Because we're not perfect. This is the whole problem with everybody worrying about being judged. Like we're perfect, like anybody's remotely perfect. So you don't have flaws. You don't have psychological issues. You're not stupid some percentage of the time. We're all this way. We're not good at most things. I'm good at like 3 things out of the 50 things that I attempt in the average day. So why am I expecting to be perfect? Why am I afraid to be imperfect in front of people? Yeah. So I'm not. I don't worry about it.
So Fred, I'm sitting here listening to the podcast, and I'm going, well, I want to do this. I want to go out. I want to be bold. I want to start taking some action. What can people start to do to practice, just some exercises that people might be able to do to start really developing that bold muscle that you talk about?
And so in the book, I break down a systematic way that somebody can build their boldness muscle on a consistent basis to just keep expanding it. And the last quarter of the book is a bunch of exercises. And they start really simply, like I said, that, smile at 5 strangers a day. And the important thing is to register that some people aren't going to smile back. And if you do it enough, you say, wow, people aren't smiling back, but some people really are. And I thought, sure, that guy wasn't going to smile back at me, and he smiled back at me. And so it's doing stuff like that. But then the exercises get more and more intense over time, because you're widening this comfort zone. So one of the things I do is just say, you need to talk to strangers. You need to make this a habit of just talking to strangers. Talk when people don't talk to people. In elevators, classic time to just talk to somebody. And all you have to do is pay them a compliment or make a casual observation about something, and not worry about if they respond. But then, one of my favorites is, because people stop themselves all the time, is I say, if you see a sign that says employees only, go in. If the door's unlocked, go inside. You know why? Because in your brain, you're going, I can't go in here. I shouldn't go in here. It says employees. Nothing will happen. And this is what bold people know, is that 99% of the time when they try stuff that seems risky, nothing bad happens unless they decide to label it that way. Oh, that was embarrassing. Oh, somebody threw me out. It's like, you went in that said employees only. Of course there was a chance you were going to get thrown out. But most of the time, people say, can I help you? And I've done it. And people say, this is for employees only. And I would say, well, I'm an employee, just not here. And they have to laugh because I'm being an idiot.
Yeah.
And so, but you're hearing the voices of how you stop yourself. And I want you to understand that it's you doing it. And then eventually you're going to do some wild stuff. You're going to put a wig on and go sing and dance, listening to headphones, standing in front of a coffee shop. And you know what? Or sing karaoke badly. No, you don't die. That's the amazing thing. Dying of embarrassment is not a medical diagnosis. So just let it go. So anyway, so it's, get the book and start to, by all means, do the exercises, because the book is designed to give you the insights that get you there to try it and realize you want to be bolder. You want to be bolder faster, and you can get there. And you want to the point where, people tell me I'm charismatic. That's why I said this in the book, is because I would say, me? You're talking about me? And they would say, oh yeah. And it's just, and I thought, well, why wouldn't I want to light up a room? Why wouldn't I want people to be drawn to me? There's nothing bad about it. I just didn't realize that I had gotten there. And anybody can get there. And bring it's not, you're not going to become me. You're going to bring your full you. This is where we started. Boldness, being super bold, is bringing the full you out to the world. You're depriving the world of you. The number one reason that you want to become bold and build your boldness muscle is there will be maybe 2, 3, 4 times in your life where you will need to step up, or to take bold action, or to speak up. And if you don't, the whole trajectory of your life will change, and not for the better. And those things will gnaw at you till the day you die. And it may be giving a eulogy for a parent, or quitting that job at that moment, or starting that business, or mending that, calling somebody up and saying, that thing I did that time, that was not in character for me, and I hope you could forgive me.
It's funny too. I ran for the president of this national organization, a big organization in the United States, and I won. But in doing so, I was different. I was younger than most that had gone through that process, and I remember doing some social media posts, and a lot of the old guard sent me private messages and saying, hey man, that's not very presidential. But my thought was, you know what? I don't care. This is who I am. If you can't handle this version of me, I shouldn't be in that position anyway. But if you want new, if you want fresh, if you want somebody who's got different ideas, who is going to be outside of what the typical idea or the typical vision was of a president, then I'm your guy. Vote for Rodman, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's times where you have to put yourself out there or you will stack an enormous regret. I do use the eulogy as a key example, because a lot of people go like, oh, I'm not good at public speaking, or I hate to speak in public. It's like, this isn't a performance. This is your last opportunity to say how you feel about this person and the impact they've had on your life. And I have been at so many funerals where they'll say, would anybody like to say anything? And nobody says anything. And so I'll say something, and it begins a flood tide, because I'll get up and just randomly say everything that comes into my head, and I'll probably cry before I'm done. And they say, oh my gosh, it's all right to cry. And part of the reason I talk about it is I wrote a letter to my father at one point telling him how much I loved him and appreciated everything. And I was a younger man at the time. And we had never said I love you or anything in my family. And so I told him how much I appreciated the sacrifices he made for me, and that I knew how much he loved me and I wanted him to know how much I loved him. And I put it in the letter, and he died the next day.
Oh,
so I should have called him. I didn't have the boldness to call him up and tell him how much I loved him. So I had to put it in a letter. And so that tells me I still have that letter from his mailbox unopened. And that reminds me to say what needs to be said.
yeah. Wow. I mean, seriously, man, that is just so profound and so deep.
Yeah.
I mean, one day, and that's the thing, is life's so short anyway, right? And you don't know from day to day. You don't know.
No.
I mean, either one of us could be gone tomorrow.
We both thought we had plenty of time to talk about stuff. We just didn't have one more second.
Yeah. My grandfather was like that when I was growing up. You know, he was always, and my grandfather's a worker, he's an entrepreneur, nicest man in the world, most genuine man. But he would always talk about when he would be able to start golfing again, when he'd be able to start fishing again, when he'd be able to start. And it was over and over again, but he always worked and he worked and he worked and he worked. And he had to work, you know, there got to be a point where just money-wise, he had to be working. But the golf never happened. The fishing never happened. A lot of the travel never happened. And, you know, I always think about him a lot when I go on something. Matter of fact, we had bought a camper at one point for my family to start doing some camping. And we named it Gordon because my grandfather's name was Gordon. And it's like, we're going to go do this for him. But don't let other people do that for you. Do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Take the time and do things for yourself.
So true.
So, Fred, I want, number one, we could talk about this all day because, you know, every time you say something, I've got a new analogy or a new thought or a new idea. I mean, but we're going to do this again. You and I are going to do this again because, number one, I like you. And number two, I think you've got a lot to share with the world, which I like even more, that you're somebody who's not afraid to take what you know, what you're trying to put out into the world, to share with people so they can avoid regret, so they can live a full life and avoid that regret. But I want people to be able to find you. Where do you want people to go to talk to you or to find you or to follow you, whatever it might be?
The easiest way is fredjoyal.com. That's Joyal. You can book a half an hour with me to just talk about what you're thinking about, what you want to do. I obviously do a bunch of speaking gigs, really good with entrepreneurs and salespeople, but I love talking to college students as well because they're going to solve big problems. And that's really, we got a lot of big problems that have to be solved in the world. We need people bold enough to believe they can solve them. I'm trying to recruit them to fix the world that they've been handed here. But yeah, that's the easiest way. And my books are on Amazon, and it's me reading the audiobook, and it's Kindle and it's hardcover. So they're all there right there on Amazon.
Love it. And you know, I always ask this one last question, and I think I actually think I know what your answer is going to be. So I don't know. I'm not going to say what it is, but when you say it, but maybe it'll surprise me, but I think I know what this is going to be. But if you could go back in time, sit down with your younger self and give your younger self one piece of your most valuable advice, what would that be?
It would be the only person stopping you is you from chasing your dreams. And boldness is something you can summon by being uncomfortable. And it will make all the difference in your life.
Love it. Fred, man, thank you for coming on the show. I so appreciate you, and I can't wait till we can do this again.
Me too. Thank you so much, Rodman.